Hi everyone, this is Dawn here um, to make a video on the topic of, what is the topic exactly? The topic is how you see yourself. How are you seeing yourself right now today? It's been on my heart the last several days, about 3 or 4 days actually. So I've actually been through quite the emotional process. Um, I was I'm often called to participate in sort of presence and awareness to specific things happening in the collective. Sometimes I understand them, sometimes I don't. Um, and the last several days, I've been pretty clear. There was a very specific thing I've been asked to bring my awareness to, and um, a very specific passage of scripture that I was asked to meditate on. One of my favorites from Hebrews chapter 4, and it's the end of that chapter if you want to look that up. It's about we have such a high priest, one who has walked before us in every way, and therefore we can approach the throne with confidence. And a part of me being asked to reflect on those verses was for a particular portion of individuals in the world who are feeling very inadequate, who have awakened to the truth of who they are, but feel very ill-equipped to fully embody that. Some may feel it's they simply can't make that shift, can't cross that bridge into what, the new world, the new earth, which is really about bringing heaven to earth through us. And some feel, it's too late, they're too locked in their ways, they can't because of this reason or that reason. And any of us who have crossed that bridge understand what that was like to some degree, one degree or another. I have a different perspective on that in a way. And it's so funny because I used to think, wow, I'm just like a total freak. Like I'm the only one like this. What's the deal with this? But I have come to appreciate so much, so much the inner, way deep in my soul self confidence. I have trouble still in my everyday life with confidence in all the human ways, and still challenged with that. But this verse I was asked to contemplate and meditate on for quite a specific purpose was all about confidence and the reason that we can have confidence. So regardless of your beliefs and or your who you think Jesus the Christ to be, whether you even think he was the Christ, but let's put that aside for a moment. I do. I think anybody who follows me knows that. But let's put that aside for a moment and let's think about this for a second. If you are called, so I think there's no question for anybody who's watching my videos that you are called to a high calling. You are called to fully embody the whole of who you are, to return to your whole self and your soul self in this life. Because, if not, if you don't think that's important, you're probably not watching my videos. Because that's the whole thing. It's about, being, experiencing ourselves in the fullest way possible and coming fully to our lives and living in full expression. And yet, many of us get stuck somewhere along the way when we're making that transition. And even those of us who are adept at transversing the dimensions, say, or are moving or move quite easily or do not have many ties to systems and structures and other kinds of all of the impediments that people use as excuses for why they can't do whatever they feel called to do, which really is just about denying the sovereignty to which we are invited as participants in God's heavenly kingdom here on earth, and as those who are invited to approach the throne boldly. It there's a separation within yourself if you are putting that aside in favor of anything else, no matter what that might be. And so I was pondering all of this, and I was thinking this week, and I was thinking about the broader issues where this shows up in the collective in terms of some of the things that are happening in our world. You know, both in terms of the things that are really happening, that where there really are people who are driven to acts that are inhumane, man's inhumanity to man, and also in terms of where there are systems or groups of individuals that are using fear to and even kind of not even real things to perpetuate that fear and then keep people locked in these lower ways of operating. And I was thinking about like what really happens, when we fail to become the love leader of our own lives, and to believe that we are worthy of that experience, of the full experience of life. What really happens and what's lost, and it's really quite significant. And when let's just take the idea of a king and a queen, okay? Let's just say when a king believes himself to be a jester or a servant locked in servitude, it's the kingdom that suffers. The kingdom withers on the vine because the king is meant to be the caretaker of the kingdom. The king is meant to sit alongside the queen, or flip-flop that. The queen, when she is not stepping onto the throne of her life and is not, authentically being the whole of who she is, then those, and I want us to, not take this too literally, right? I'm not saying that like there's a king and a queen and all the rest of the people are servants. Actually, far from it. We are all things are equal. We are all equal in God's kingdom, and this is a time when we need to see that the kingdom I'm talking about. Actually, let's reframe this a bit. So when the king fails to be the king for whatever reason, he doesn't believe he's worthy of the king, he thinks he's failed, God or himself or his queen, and he can't step it up and so he starts living a smaller and smaller, more reduced life in smaller and smaller circles, and confines himself to operate within a sphere that often is not even his or her own, the king or queen's own. In other words, gives himself over to a system, whether that be an actual structural system or a group of systems or a system of belief or anything that's external, that is not of him and her or God. So anything outside of that, and often people confuse this. I see this quite a bit, and I've experienced it, I've witnessed it. It's interesting because I was actually inside some of these systems. I never really bought into them. It's like I believed in the organizations I worked for. I believed wholeheartedly in the missions of those organizations. I didn't only once did I ever take a job where I didn't fully believe in the mission of the place I was working for, and it didn't last. No surprise. But in terms of the systems themselves, even in the organizations, or like say the church, for example, I definitely still believe in the mission of the church very much so. And but even so, it is a system. And if you make those, what happens a lot of times is people who are committed to the mission or the cause, say, of an organization or a business or the church or government, and and freedom, so they have these values, and they're committed to the cause or the structure, and they think it's the best way forward, which is wonderful. But what can happen is they lose sight. There's another layer that gets put in there, and they lose sight of where this is coming from in their hearts. And so they get caught in this. Pretty soon they're just like, kind of repeating the same patterns year after year, and they're doing it for expected outcomes, or perhaps some long-term goal they've set for themselves. I've noticed that often, for, it seems to me anyway, I may be reading this wrong, but often for many men who have been operating in this way, it's about, some financial objective, or feeling somehow that is, they've attached their meaning to that. Um, and then, for women, that can be career. It can also be, family, or the finding your worth in other people, and or other larger communities. And so I don't know if I'm articulating this the way as well as I'd like to, but what I'm trying to say is that often we create these internal separations from ourselves, and we forget to ask what we are receiving, because see, we are meant to give and receive, and to live in such a way that we are feeling the joy of this life, and that needs to be primary. And the reason that needs to be primary is because, for freedom, we have been set free, and that this is the gift that we are invited to receive. This is the point of life, and then to give from our own creative offering of who we are. And when I say creative, it doesn't have to be that you're an artist, or a writer, or any other creative pursuit. And yet, your unique soul gift offerings are creative, because they are bringing life to life, and bringing life to others. And so when we shortchange ourselves by feeling that we don't have anything to offer, or that it's too late, or that we're caught up in this other, we must do XYZ thing every day, and then we can sort of give our gifts, that's backwards. And it also deprives um, all of the people around us, and it sells our own selves short, and it keeps us locked in this way. It's a path of reduction and contraction rather than one of expansion. And that's, to me, how I feel into whatever I'm choosing to, whatever belief I'm choosing to animate, whatever system I'm plugging into, if any, and how I'm choosing to show up in every day. That has to be primary for me. Does it feel like life, and is it giving life to myself and to others? Is it bringing more life to life? And what is the full contribution? And am I doing that primarily from a spirit of love and service and joy, or am I doing it for some reward, or expected outcome, or promised end, which, in case you haven't noticed, the world has changed, and that's really not a way to live anymore, because those things that we were conditioned that would always be there, they're no longer sustainable. We are living in a time that needs us, each one of us, to show up fully, and that's why I've written some and talk a little bit about the importance of your particular play of light, and your essential story of life, and your revolution of love. You, individually. And yes, that can come forward at times as you join with others and collaborate, or in the context of a community or within an organization or any other structure. But it's really, really important that you begin within, with the whole of who you are. And it's essential that in any relationship, in any job, in any community, that you are showing up as fully you and not willingly or by force forfeiting little pieces of yourself and selling them off. That is not a sustainable way to live, and it also it's a pain inducing, and the only place that leads is to addiction and or other sorts of coping mechanisms, sometimes in collusion with other people, that again are false. Those aren't real. And I don't know about you, but I want to live a life that's real. And again, that's why I think we're here, to have life. Life, the real deal, life. It's still there. It's still there, so we can turn on the news and we can see all the stuff that's happening. And we can feel like we've missed the boat, and we can, we can look at all the negatives. But this is a world of beauty, and every single day we have an opportunity in terms of how we show up in it and what choices we make. Who are you choosing to be today? And I'm not suggesting that it's easy, because it's not easy when you have locked yourself into a variety of situations that that are often encouraged by society, certainly, but also by our friends and family members. There's an expectation about how you will live your life. But we can no longer afford to forfeit one moment, one day, to expectation. It leads to death and to unhappiness, to death in a variety of forms, not necessarily literal death. Although I would argue that the way that most people approach this notion of what they think is expected in terms of work, career being the obvious, but also family dynamics, partnerships, commitments of one kind or another, is literally as if they forfeit their own ability to choose for life, and that becomes secondary to these various structures and what's the word I want to use, is sort of like entanglement. Now, not to say that all of those are negative, because certainly, first of all, there's a time for all things, and all of those systems to which I've been connected in my life have given me great lessons, valuable lessons, in all the relationships that I've had, the ones that brought me nothing but pain or hardship at the time, or were devastating in terms of what was lost. That just, and that remains true to some degree, and yet there is something that we can carry forward that will inform us, that will contribute to our formation and our reformation and our transformation, if we so choose, if we allow that transformation to take place. So I hope that this has been, sort of food for thought for someone out there. I just felt really compelled to share on this topic today, and I don't think there was anything really new there, but just felt a desire to speak to it. I wish you a beautiful remainder of this week and weekend. I do plan to, at some point in the near future, it's June of 2017, share my 90 Days to Life, likely online in an open forum. So I will be posting a new video about that when I decide on the particulars. But you may want to, on Facebook, look for Life Seeds Daily and follow that page, and select the see first thing or follow. I don't know how you do that, but whatever. I will, because I will post there, and that may be where I share, but if not, I will post the information there, and it'll be a great opportunity, because I think what I'm planning to do is to go through it all live, and change up the way that's, or where that's presently offered online. So this would be a great opportunity for you to join me for that. So much love to each one of you.